Hello and welcome to another fully live Q&A episode of Hacking with Friends. Per usual, we are running on hacker time, a little bit late today after some technical difficulties, but we are up and running. My name is Kody Kinzie. I am a security researcher here, and we're going to go over the answers to your hopefully hacking related questions, as well as talk about some interesting subjects, including 3D printing with multiple colors and Hackaday Supercon. Hello to everybody who's hanging out with us in the chat. Good to see you, James, in particular. And if anybody is going to be headed to Supercon this week, I'm looking forward to meeting some people in person. I often find that there's a lot of people that I've seen on YouTube or even who have just been in the chat who end up at Supercon. So if you're going to be there in Pasadena, please let me know. It would be great to hang out. Let's see. All right. So I wanted to, while some questions roll in, and hopefully everything's working today. I'm a one-man show per usual. So with my laptop failing earlier, I've just been praying that the rest of the equipment, including the brand new Spectrum internet installation, which did not go according to plan, is all set up and working. So if you're hearing me and seeing me and everything looks good, please let me know in the chat. It will soothe my anxiety. But I wanted to talk about, yes, the bamboo sale, which is indeed lit. So I was really interested in getting a new 3D printer, and we had a discussion last week about the pros and cons of which type of printer I should get. And all of you made some recommendations, and I followed them. And now I have two bamboo printers, and I've been using them, and I have some impressions based on that experience. So bamboo printers, if you haven't seen them, are kind of, at least for me, they just came on my radar like maybe within the last year. There's something that is much more geared towards like it just works, like a little bit more of a kind of closed source mentality than like Prisa, but also, I mean, at least the one that I got in Montana, it looks like a giant toaster to me. It just looks like a big toaster. It is enclosed. It allows you to print with a number of different, typically rather tricky materials, and it has an automatic filament management system that lets you print with multiple colors without having to do anything to swap those colors yourself. So usually if you're 3D printing, like, you know, you can print in one color and then maybe you can like stop a layer and then swap it out manually, but it's really annoying to print in multiple colors. Bamboo has figured out how to do this with their filament management system. However, it's very wasteful. I have a bin just full of waste from this printer, which is getting bigger and bigger every time I do a print that involves a lot of layer swaps. And to think about like what would be a wasteful print versus not a wasteful print, I'll show two examples of things that I printed. Also, though, these are really cool, and I want to just show these prints off because I think they're great. So first off, I have Mr. Yuck. Mr. Yuck is also two-sided and glows in the dark. So this is one of my favorites that I've done and kind of shows off the potential of how this printer can make things that are kind of delightful. Like the fact that this glows in the dark is pretty cool. This print goes all the way through, and every single layer has to switch between green and black. So as a result, for every layer of this, it creates a kind of like maybe pea-sized amount of weight, and that really starts to stack up over time. So the thicker I make this, the more waste there's going to be. Now, another print I did was kind of small, but I'll hold them up here. I also have a picture I'll show on the screen in a little bit. This QR code, and it seems like some parts of it are kind of hanging in the air. But the way that it works is, and actually I'll share my screen so you can see the specific thing here, if I can find it. Here we go. So these are glowing 3D printed QR codes. Now, there's a number of reasons why I would want to make these. Like for one, you guys have been around through all of my presentations about how QR codes can be made evil. So you can put like specialized Wi-Fi networks on here. You can make it so people that scan it, you can take over their phone's internet connection. There's all sorts of, you know, hackery, malicious applications of QR codes, but also some just delightful, cool ones. And one of them would be if you have a dark environment that occasionally gets lit up by headlights or flashlights or whatever, then you can make something that glows, and it glows pretty, I would say dimly, but consistently for about 30 minutes after it's illuminated. So this is, I think it's maybe it's eSun Glowing PLA. I'll have to double check the exact brand, but it is the worst material I have worked with in a long time. It is not good for the extruder. It is very rough and makes it so that it's difficult for it to extrude properly. And also it jams all of the time. This thing is guilty for, I would say 80 to 90% of the printing errors I've had. But I've been able to print something that, let's see if I have another picture of it. Oh yeah, and you can see the glowing Mr. Yuck with the phosphorescence going on. But oh yeah, here we go. Typically, when I'm making a QR code, I have to run a process that takes all of these floating islands and stuff and bridges them. So it creates like a little bridge on the side to allow them to stay on the print. That makes it a little annoying to print QR codes because like you have to either do a multicolor one or something like that. This I really like because it is a two-sided glowing QR code, and it uses a clear PLA in order to everything together so that I don't need to do those bridges, and I can make it a little easier for maybe some tricky scanners to read. I found this QR code is super, super easy for scanners to read. And while it's not exactly where I want it, I do think that this is an interesting first experiment into how you can use multicolor printing to make some interesting objects that maybe weren't, if not possible before, they were quite a lot trickier to do. So this print right here is actually like a clear layer, like a clear base layer, and then it swaps, and then it just prints in this green glow in the dark. So that actually only produces one little piece. So this is multiple layers thick. There's like a clean layer swap where it swaps from one to the other. And at that point, it only makes one piece of waste. So this is a very efficient print. And I kind of have to think about that when I'm designing any new object that's going to use this multicolor process, because I find if I stop paying attention, hopefully that was also showing, yes. If I stop paying attention to what's going to generate a ton of waste, for one, there's the opportunity that one of the filaments jams while it's doing its swap. It creates, as I said, a lot of waste. And then also, it just has the opportunity to introduce problems into the print. So the more you can angle your print so it's reducing these swaps, the better. And like if you just kind of do it without thinking, I mean, you know, it's probably fine. But I would say that the Bamboo printers I've worked with now also work with Bamboo Studio. So let me show you guys at Bamboo Studio. I'm sorry. Also, I have to shout out Waxing Gibbous for always being my favorite screen name on this stream. But yes, Waxing Gibbous points out that you can recycle the waste into new filament. Yeah, so that's really funny because I was actually just showing this printer to someone and they were like, yeah, by the way, you can turn that into new filament. So yeah, you totally can. It is a little bit of a tedious process and you do need to do things like make sure you dry it and stuff. But the waste that you create is generally all or usually all one type of filament. And like there's other things that make it so you could probably reprocess it without it being too difficult. Now, like if you have like part one type of plastic, part another type of plastic, and it's kind of smeared together, that's a lot harder to reprocess. But yes, this isn't, you know, completely a waste of filament, even though it's not ideal and it might take a little bit of energy. Thank you for pointing that out. I think that it is definitely worth pointing it out. I'm buying the P1S with AMS. Yeah, that's actually, I think that's one of the two that I got. I have the A1 in the other room, and then I have, I think it's the P1S, which is the one that looks like a toaster with the filament management back in Montana. So I want to show off what Bamboo Studio looks like, just so you can see what it's like to make one of these. And again, we're getting almost into the weeds on this one, but I just want to shout out that like in the field of 3D printing, of which there's many hackery applications, the easy ability to make things like diffusers, to make things like glow in the dark objects that are two-sided and can be glowed through, that's been kind of difficult, or at least it's kind of annoying to do at scale. So a system that does this automatically really is pretty revolutionary because it allows you to adjust your expectations for what a 3D print can do. So I'm just kind of scratching the surface on this. My next project is actually going to be a 3D lithopate, where by using CYMK, sorry, filament, I can create a full color image when you glow through the layers with a light. So I'm really interested to see what that actually looks like. I've seen a couple YouTube videos on it. It seems like a pretty straightforward process. And I'm actually going to probably be doing that today. So, well, we'll see. I still have Halloween to deal with, so I might end up 3D printing a mask, and that's going to take a while. But either way, I'm going to be experimenting with the CYMK process and see if I can actually get like a really clean, really nice image that has light being shown through it and shows more colors than just the four types of filament that I'm going to be working with to create that effect. So seems like it's going to be really cool. Let's see. I share the body's frustration with manual bed leveling and firmware adjustment on the enders. While it builds character, it's painfully time-taking if you want to print tons of difficult elements. Yeah, okay, so let me weigh in on this. I've been 3D printing since the start of the pandemic. It was like my pandemic project, and I wanted to kind of understand what it takes to get into 3D printing, and enders were my very first printer. So an Ender 3 will typically run you between $120 on a really good day to like maybe $200. Like you can find them for cheap nowadays. And they are the AK-47 of printers. Maybe that's not a great analogy, but it's a good start. The parts are readily available. Maybe they're the M16 of printers. There you go. The parts are readily available, but over time they require maintenance. And in the end, you can have a printer that is like maybe 20% original parts, like maybe this, like, you know, because over time you're like, man, that's loud. I would love a silent motherboard to make this thing quiet enough that I can sleep, you know, when it's printing at night. So boom, the motherboard's gone. And they're like, you know what? I need a better hot end that can deal with different temperatures. Then the hot end is gone. And then you're like, you know what? I'm tired of the hot end jamming. I want a direct drive system with a motor that's on the hot end. And then, you know, that's gone. And at a certain point, you look at it and you're just like, this is becoming a Prusa. But that's fine because you can achieve, I'm not going to say the same result, but a custom build that you understand. But here's the joke. Anytime someone tells me, oh, I have insert more than one ender, I'm always like, oh, how many of them work? And it's never more than 50%. Because like most of those printers are just going to be down or there's going to be some quirky thing they're doing. And yes, they take a painstaking amount of diagnosing and figuring out. And basically you develop like a personal relationship with your ender where you understand its quirks, you understand what parts need to be replaced frequently, and you might not understand everything that's going on with it, but you understand its personality. And that is not like, you don't need to be a Prusa whisperer once you get beyond an ender whisperer. Once you get beyond like, you know, 2 printers, maintaining a fleet of enders, you might as well just get a Prusa, like most of the time. So I switched over to a Prusa after that, and I've liked it. The only complaint being that it is a little bit annoying to deal with some of the standard malfunctions that for an ender are you just, you know, you rip it apart, no big deal. Like all the parts are big, they come apart, like it's easy. A Prusa's different. It's got a lot of 3D printed parts. It's possible to damage it in other ways. I generally have liked my Prusa a lot. I've just found that it's been a lot more difficult to troubleshoot than my ender because it's not as, you know, it's not as basic, basically. But let's talk about Bamboo Studio. Let me pull this up. So let's see. Is this Bamboo Studio? Yes, it is. Okay, cool. So this is Bamboo Studio. I've made a variety of different projects now, like in Bamboo Studio. You can see a lot of 3D objects. I've made some special cases. I've made a Mr. Yuck version of the Nugget case. You can see these are my QR codes. I want to show, maybe I'll do my national security agency. So in order to make one of these, you basically just need to make a scalable vector graphic file, an SVG file. This was a little project I made. I basically just needed highly suspicious luggage tags that I think would make people less likely to steal my luggage. Maybe it would make them more likely, honestly, I don't know. But either way, I printed this out, and for whatever reason, the filament got swapped. So the yellow here got turned to green. So it's like the eagle's like thinking about money at the same time. Like, I don't really understand it. But either way, I want to show you how color 3D printing works. So we have an object, it's 3D object. And in Bamboo Studio, there's a number of different ways we can go about this. Now, the way that all the YouTube videos show you how to do this, I think like only works for a couple types of projects. And some of the ones that I wanted to do were so painstaking, didn't want to do it the way they said to. So here, there's this color painting section, and I can go through, and let's say that I do want the background of the eagle to be green, which is the way it came out. I can select the filament like this, and before I get too far into it, yes, I am indeed streaming it. Okay, good. Oh, sorry, I'm gonna hide your comments so we can see more of that. There we go. Don't want to put you on blast. And then over here, we have different tool types. So if I want, I can like paint like this, like all MS Painty, and like that actually works, and it looks super stupid. I printed out a couple things where I just like freehanded text, and it looks like MS Paint art. And if you're good at MS Paint art, then guess what? Your moment has finally come. You can draw like a Starry Night or a Vanguard or whatever here in MS Paint effectively, and it will look great when it's 3D printed. But I was just like, that cannot possibly be the way that, you know, people are getting these great results. Like that doesn't make sense. So let's just say, yes, you can paint, but no, you don't need to. We also have a sphere where we can make a sphere. That's great. It's like a 3D sphere, triangle, and then height range. Now, this is something that I've been using a lot. A height range will allow you to set a certain range, like a vertical slice through the image. And then you can define how thick it is. So I'm going to say like 2.5 or whatever. And then you can see got this layer where I can make it so everything above this turns a certain color. If I do that, well, I guess on that in that case it was, oh, whoa, okay, there we go. So I have turned everything on the bottom side to be green. Is that what I want? No. But I mean, it is a great way for me to, for example, have a certain layer boundary where the tool changes from black to green, and then, you know, I can do stuff from there. So that is one way to do it, is with that. So now everything on the side is green. That's not what I want. So let's say I want to colorize this, and I want it to be, I don't know, black. Let's make the eagle black. So I can also do fill. Now, because this is an SVG, I can actually click on these things, all these different parts of the object, and I can fill them one by one if I want to, which I generally don't, because look at all these objects and like which are, you know, I don't want to do all this. But anyway, you can go through, and for simple SVGs like my Mr. Yuck, like this was by far the easiest way to do it. I could fill it in with any filament I want and go through and do this bit by bit by bit. But over here on the assistant side, there's also, I can just select the individual parts of the SVG image directly as well if I want to, which is really useful. So if I want to set like different parts of this image to different color, I can actually just select, does it show better on this one? I can just select basically this part here and do that instead. So let's say that I want to change these parts. Oh my gosh. The computer is really struggling today, everyone. I fear for our stream. Ooh, okay. After painstakingly selecting all these, I can right mouse click and set filament for selected items. And let's say I want this all to be, right now it's white. Let's say that we want it green. We'll go through, and when I click out, it should, okay, all right, we've got some progress. Now it's, well, okay. It was already green on the back, so it's kind of hard to see. Let's set filament to yellow. Okay, well, so we can see that we've got some feathers and other like small details that we've set to yellow that are down here. Really the most annoying part of this is selecting all the correct parts. So if you've got something like a QR code that has just like like a couple of layers and there's not that much data, you can basically use the depth here or the SVG details and just select all of them except the top layer, and it works pretty good. If you've got a more complicated image like this, where some of the sections are going to be one color, some of them are going to be the other color, things can get a lot more complicated. As you can see, Bamboo Studio is losing it. It is freaking out. So I'm going to let this gracefully decide what it wants to do. I'm going to click out so it doesn't, I'm just not adjusting the layers. And then I'll show you what the final step of printing on a Bamboo printer is like. See, also looking through the comments. James says, I really like to understand the thing, so assembling my printer was worthwhile for me. It's not everyone's idea of fun. That is exactly how I feel. Oh, wait. Idea, make the QR code be possible to disassemble and readable in other forms. Yeah, I like that idea. So one thing I was also thinking of is making QR codes where it's impossible to read them unless like you shine a flashlight on them or something like that. Like making it so it's got a thin layer of this like glowing PLA that's inside kind of like a clear filament layer on either side that makes it a little harder to see during normal times, but if you make it glow, then is a lot easier to spot. I like that idea though. One of the things I'm going to be experimenting with is these QR codes that encode for a Wi-Fi network that then gets stuck in your phone, and putting that in places where if people scan it, it then allows me to know that they've been there, which is going to be really interesting. All right, has it finished? Let's see. Sorry, I was waiting for it to stop freaking out. Yes. Okay. So let's say we're going to slice this. So I can click on slice plate. I'm sure that the computer is going to enjoy me doing this. And after a while, it'll give me a preview of exactly what's going to happen on every layer, including filament swaps. Now, I think it'll also give me like an estimate of like how much waste it's going to produce, which is useful information. But yeah, like that's almost the final step here. Is we'll get an estimate on how long it's going to take for the print to go, and we'll be able to go layer by layer by layer and see exactly what's going on. So again, I'm enchanted by this because this wasn't previously possible to have these automated layer swaps. And here we go. We can see what the final result is going to look like, and we can also see if there's like a really bad result and like the image just doesn't look right, we'll probably get some hints for how it's going to look here and be able to adjust things and make sure that it does look the way that we want it to look. So this looks terrible, so we're going to move forward. If I hit print plate, then it will allow me to decide on which of my Bamboo printers I want to print. So I can print something off on Toaster, which is my LA printer, or sorry, my Montana Toaster printer, and then Los Angeles, my normal A1 not enclosed printer. And I can also do a final filament map over here and make sure that the filament matches what I'm expecting, and that when I hit send, it actually has all the right filament settings done. Now, this bed leveling, flow dynamics calibration, enable AMS, like obviously we want to enable AMS. That's the automated management system for the filament. But the flow dynamic calibration does waste some filament, but it allows the print to have really good consistency by making sure that any weirdness in the way that the filament is extruding is taken care of in the diagnostic step. So finally, we have the actual device. So we can see the configuration, we can see the last print. I can also start up the camera and see a live view of the printer, which is pretty cool. And then I can also switch over to the other printer and see a live view of that one as well. So on this one, I have like the official Bamboo filament in it. So it's like much more aware of what's going on in these first two. And these second ones, it like doesn't believe me necessarily, but still pretty cool that I can initiate and spy on prints from basically anywhere. In this case, I can just go to, let's see, oh, right here. Well, let me just do it again. No, I guess it won't just let me do it again. That's too bad. But yeah, so full management of printers, like from the same interface that you're slicing on, which is pretty cool until it crashes, which is not all of the time, but definitely some of the time. And that is the basic process of going through, taking an SVG file and then colorizing it and getting an actual print that looks good. So there are some tricks to this. So SVG files usually come with like a base layer. If you delete it, then it just becomes like the shape that you're working with. In this case, it used to be like a Mr. Yuck in a square, and it took me a little bit that I had to figure out, I had to delete the first layer in the SVG file to free the yuck and make it so that it could be printed on these little adhesives or luggage tags. I also like making glow through prints now. So I think I pointed it out on Mastodon, and I wanted to show what the glow through effect looks like because I think it's really cool. So we have done, my team has done a lot of, I'm gonna share the screen again, sorry. My team has done a lot of smart light based projects at conferences, and I have been really interested in different types of diffusers, custom diffusers, and this was one of the first time we were able to make a custom diffuser based on a friend's art and make it so it looked really, really good from a 3D printed perspective. So that comes from, certainly, okay, there we go. I love Mastodon for many things, but showing video files is not one of them. Okay, well, I guess you're gonna have to just trust me on that one. But this is a glow through print where, okay, there we go. That's a little bit more anyway. This is a glow through print that I created to be a diffuser. And the idea is like using this filament swap control to make sure that every single layer in a relatively thick print is done in a glow through filament that, in this case, warm white, that allows light to spread out and look very even and very good. So if you're looking for translating art to like a glow through or a diffuser or something like that, I have to say these look really good. Typically, I've been using there's like silicone diffusers that like look like the little cat. Like I really like them, but getting some of our friends' art out there by turning these kind of glow through panels into like a smart light or something like that, I think is really fun. And then these Mr. Yucks were actually inspired by my desire to have a light behind it, or like glow through prints that has a single LED behind it that turns on for like, just long enough to charge up this, and then turns off and lets it glow for as long as possible. So just enough to keep this glowing and no more. I think it'd be kind of a fun installation, but it needs to be clear, or rather glow through, translucent, in order to make that happen. So first step in doing that, lots of cool stuff. I'm also excited to talk to other hackers at Hackaday Supercon about 3D printing and what they've learned to do with these new printers. Let's see. Sorry, I'm reading your comment and I'm interpreting it. Make the QR codes to be able to be disassembled and be able to reassemble to have many other QR codes available to have in one. Oh, okay. So like a QR code where you have to put multiples together in order to get the final QR code, something like that. That actually totally is possible, because I've noticed that by stacking these transparent ones, I can have multiple levels of glowing data that come together. And then if I had multiple of these plates that are like disassembled, then when you put them together, it creates the final QR code that has the data. Pretty cool, because it can destroy like 50% of the data in like by doing that and separating them, and QR codes will still work even if you destroy up to 30% of the data. So if I get rid of 50%, it'll almost definitely not work anymore. At least any one of these individual ones, but you could stack them and then get like a secret QR code that only you're able to see when you shine a light through it, and get both parts of it together over each other to glow. Lots of cool and fun stuff. That actually sounds like a fun challenge for like an in-person CTF or something. So I might have to try something like that. Might be interesting trick for geocaching. QR code cache with Wi-Fi details, but then you have to go to another location where the network actually exists to sign a digital guest book. That would be really cool. So I went on a hike recently where there was like an ammunition tin up there with a like a guest book and people just leaving stuff. And of course I left a bunch of weird stuff. So if you have joined the stream from going to the top of that mountain, opening the ammo can and then seeing the free SecurityFWD stickers that I left in there, hi, and welcome to the stream. But a digital guest book would also be a really cool way of doing that. So the things I like about it are you can make an almost invisible QR code that can only be activated by doing a certain thing. So if this was on like a white surface, for example, it would be very, very difficult to see if you weren't already looking for it. I like that a lot. I think it's pretty cool. You could make it so that only if somebody turns off a light, they can see this. And as James also pointed out, you could encode a QR code that has a Wi-Fi network that then when they're in range allows them to join. So a lot of like cool and interesting things you could do with these durable and illuminable QR codes. Yeah, I love new material stuff. And like, I feel like it's probably not going to be long until you maybe go to a restaurant and you see like a hastily 3D printed QR code like slapped over the QR code that you use to order and pay. I myself have been tempted to do this. So I know that cyber criminals can't be far behind. And especially if you are looking at things like parking meters or other things that have QR codes that are meant for you to follow to pay, these sorts of durable multi-layer QR codes are going to perform a lot better than stickers and stick around a lot longer. So for durable QR codes, I think both hackers and thieves are going to be interested in the applications of these multi-layer 3D printed, maybe not glowing, but still these durable QR codes are going to be, in most cases, better and easier to produce if you've got a 3D printer than just a sticker if you're going to be putting up a QR code that needs to stay up for a while. Make a luggage sign that says not radioactive. So yeah, my original luggage tag idea was just that NSA logo, just really big. And it came out pretty funny. It didn't come out the way that I wanted it to. So I did not use it. But yes, I think it would be really funny to maybe use some of these like Mr. Yucks and make everybody think that my luggage both tastes bitter and is poisonous. Oh, that's interesting. Using a UV LED for each square, you can make a QR code only phones cameras could see. Yeah, no, that's a really good idea. I also think you might be able to like charge up like the you might be able to charge up the phosphor in this with like a light that's like kind of hard for people to see, but then like is like makes this react really strong, like kind of like a black light kind of situation. So I'm gonna give it a try and see what it looks like. But excited to see if anybody else at Supercon has experimented with this and what their results have been. I am probably a couple of weeks into working with QR codes in a 3D printed fashion. Still pretty new on this particular platform, but I've been like manually stopping the printer and swapping these out and trying them for a while. So some pretty interesting things going on. You can have a lot of information on some of the larger ones, like full paragraphs, lots of data. Whereas when it comes, well, relatively large amounts of data. Whereas when it comes to some of these other ones, it is not quite as verbose. You can't put as much information on this. So yeah, lots of good ideas. Someone already did this on parking meters. Yes, so on Security Forward's news stream, we already covered an incident where somebody made a batch of QR codes that went to, it was like poybyphone.com or something like that, P-O-Y. And because it was like a single character off, like people didn't notice that when they scanned it, it looked like it was going to a legit thing, but it wasn't. It was like poybyphone.com. And they would put in their payment information, walk away, and then they would come back with like a ticket and then also a charge on their account. So yes, durable QR codes have all sorts of applications. So if you are at a restaurant or if you're about to pay for something and you're going to use a QR code, take a look at it. If it's like a 3D printed QR code, like if it's got like 3D depth to it, like maybe consider more carefully, as that is something that can be easily created for a couple of cents. It's very durable and would be easy to stick on a number of different places. So I think, yeah, it should probably create some chaos out there as people start using this tech for a number of different interesting things. Oh, yeah, and I also really like that idea that potentially you could light this with a infrared UV. All right, so I also wanted to shout out some of the questions and comments that we got on the YouTube channel. Let me see if I can share that as well. I think it's this one. Okay, so we had a lot of videos, like video snippets come out, and some of the reactions I thought were really good. So first up was somebody talking about basically the bug bounty community. And the video was about why are so few hackers paid for bug bounties? And the reality of it was a lot of the times either somebody else has already found it or the company marks it as a duplicate, and you don't get paid for duplicates, which is unfortunate. So you could put in a lot of work on doing a bug bounty and then end up still getting nothing. And that's a really frustrating experience for a lot of people who are just getting started. So if you are in a bug bounty program, then it's good to get paid for when you do find something unique. It's just not something that very many people have found they're able to like pay their rent on. Like if you're a specialist, if you're very experienced, then maybe. But if you're just getting started, you shouldn't maybe have the expectation that you're going to find bugs everywhere and just get paid nonstop. There's a finite amount out there, and there are a lot of people that do bug bounties, some of them very experienced. But starting out, the advice here is to specialize in a bug class and try to hunt on many different programs for the same bug. It works for now, at least. And that, I think, is great advice. Once you learn a fundamental thing, running around and checking for it and seeing what types of environments are vulnerable to that, starting to learn where you'll find it, like that starts building up your experience in that class of vulnerability. And you can take it step by step. And instead of just trying to look like everywhere for everything, you can instead focus on things that are much more understandable because you're learning them in like a lesson in a contained situation. And then you're going out in the real world and seeing, oh, okay, this is an environment where I'm not going to get arrested, and maybe I'll even get paid if I find this type of vulnerability. I'm going to gain some experience finding it. And even if I don't get paid, it's like, like it's still like a school exercise almost for like something you're going to be doing in the industry a lot. So I think that bug bounties are great. I think that, yes, starting with a particular class of vulnerability and then going from there is probably going to be the best way for you to learn something as a beginner or somebody coming into bug bounties that hasn't done it before, and avoid getting overwhelmed by all the things you could be hunting after. So I would echo this advice, and I appreciate that. I'm going to give you a heart and thumbs up, and I think you look very cool smoking in your profile picture. All right, we've got a unsubstantiated conspiracy theory, which I love. Let's amplify it. The web archive attack is a sponsored operation by big tech that wants to keep big data. That wants to keep big data from we the people. Okay, I mean, the source on this is trust me, bro, but I mean, I really don't know. So if you haven't heard, then the Internet Archive was attacked, and this was something that was not popular amongst hackers. The Internet Archive is up there with Wikipedia in terms of being beloved by hackers. It creates a record of the internet as it has grown and changed over time, and it is a priceless piece of data for OSINT investigators. A lot of the investigations I've done rely on the Internet Archive as a resource, and lots of people were very upset that the Internet Archive was attacked. So I don't know if it's time to start conspiracy theories or start pointing fingers at random corporations for doing this. However, I will say that a lot of people are very upset about it, and you know, like maybe it was them. I don't know. It seems like anecdotally in the comments, people are saying it. So, also further discussion on the LED stuff. I also just wanted to point out while we're talking about in the comments, like LEDs and nails and stuff, the NFC nail flashing stickers are so cool. So I don't like paint my fingernails on a typical day, but I will say these stickers that you're supposed to put on your fingernails and paint over, they're powered by like NFC fields, right? So if you are paying for something and you put your finger on the reader, it'll actually make your finger start, like your fingernails start glowing. And there's different colors you can do, like it kind of like pulses in response to the NFC signal. It's kind of like a linear thing. So you can see the actual pulses of it, like sending like inquiries like to the chip. So for example, when I was in Las Vegas for DEF CON, I put these on like one of my fingers. And then anytime I went to scan the hotel key card to use the elevator, like my finger would go crazy and start like lighting up and showing where an NFC field was. So I like to think of it as like a very colorful and pretty NFC field detector. You can not only detect where there's an NFC field, but you can kind of identify what type of field it is by its behavior. And I think that's absolutely wild. So I literally can't pull up AliExpress because of all the ads it shows me. I think of all the different sales platforms, AliExpress is probably my favorite because they still have no idea what I'm interested in. Like in spite of me making literally tens of thousands of dollars worth of purchases on that platform, they still show me the most random, just mostly human hair and other things as like primary things I should be interested in. So unfortunately, I know AliExpress and I'm not going to open myself up to that. But if you just look up the NFC nail flashers, you'll see these delightful NFC field detectors that you can wear on your fingernails, also known as beautiful light up NFC fingernail stickers. I found that these do not actually stick flat. So maybe my fingernails are just a weird shape, but I could not get them to lie flat for the life of me. So over time, they would start to kind of pull up a little bit and like, they're not perfect, okay? I'm not saying that they're like amazing, but they are really cool. And they're definitely attention getting. And as a hacker, being able to immediately identify an NFC field visually was a pretty stunning trick. It was really cool. Oh yeah, it is. They are not just an idea. They are a real thing. And I am surprised that they are actually not totally dirt cheap on AliExpress. I got a limited amount of them because they were a little bit more than I was expecting. I thought they'd be like 6 cents each, but they were a little bit, they were more than that. But yeah, they are really, really cool. I gave one of them to my Varonis coworkers, and I think that they probably enjoyed them because they're really cool. Yes, you can also check out the link in Discord, which James has posted. Thank you for that. Yeah, like I think it's so cool that you can have something like an external body modification that then makes you aware of the invisible. So yeah, that's one of my favorite things. All right, so we've got we've got another conspiracy theory. All right, great. Love to see multiple of those on a show. Make no mistake, this is being done by the government. Bulk of the data nuked is from servers from the 2020 to 2024 period, basically the Kung Flu era, where every media outlet was threatening everyone into. Okay, I'm not going to unfurl this whole thing, but yeah, let's just say that there's a lot of conspiracy theories rolling around about what happened to the Internet Archive. Some are blaming big tech, some are blaming the government, but nobody likes this attack, and everybody is still very upset about what's going on. I'm not going to endorse any of these conspiracy theories. I will merely acknowledge them. Okay, cool. And then I'm glad that my complaining on the subject actually helped someone. I was complaining like very, very loudly that Signal was closing out the ability to use SMS texting. So originally Signal could basically completely replace your phone's messaging app. And that was great on Android because it meant that you could contact anybody, whether they use Signal or not, from Signal. And while the text to and from that person were not encrypted, it didn't matter. It was basically like one of those things where if you got one of your friends to use Signal, it wouldn't interfere with their ability to communicate with people literally at all. Like you could just replace your text app with Signal and it still worked. That is no longer true. It turns out that they did not want to support that anymore. They thought it was very complicated. And I was very upset that basically they disabled this feature and forced you to migrate all your conversations out. So now I have all of these people. And the other thing that's rich is Signal allows you to, pick like a phone number. But the phone number that I use for Signal is like a private phone number that like only friends know. My phone number that I text people from for like work, whatever else, is a separate like Google Voice number. It's totally unrelated. And then I have like another carrier number that I also just don't use. So I created a problem for myself where now I have all these SMS messages that I am going to reply to from a number that nobody has ever gotten a text from me before. And also the number that they were used to contacting me on at Signal doesn't go anymore if you send an SMS message. So this created tons of frustration for me and other people who had gotten their friends, relatives, and other Android users to start using Signal. And it created a lot of disruption because they could no longer use Signal as a replacement for their Messenger app. It was simply another encrypted messenger, of which there are several to choose from. So seems like not all the guides have been updated, and a lot of people are still finding out that it no longer allows you to do a full replacement of your messenger. So I'm still salty about this and glad that other people are too, frankly. Oh, thank you. Okay, this is talking about some of the new microcontrollers that have come out that allow you to use Matter and Thread. So, all right, for those who may not be familiar, Matter is an application protocol based on IPv6 that can be done over Thread, Wi-Fi, or wired networks. Most Matter devices I've seen lately are actually Wi-Fi and not Thread. Thread is more like a beefed up version of Zigbee that supports IP-based communication. So that's really cool. I was talking about how on AliExpress, you'll notice these modules using some of the new Espressif chips are now less than $5. Triggers my automatic interest. So as a result, I have found it prudent to kind of get these out there and show people that, hey, you can buy these now. Some of the technology they have available hasn't really been used or poked around much compared to things like Wi-Fi and other stuff that has really been explored and is a lot more easy to find research on. So if you wanted to explore some of this new like Zigbee like successor, which is Matter and Thread, I guess Matter would be the thing. Thread seems to be something that I'm seeing pop up as like an IoT standard. There's even a class on using it at Hackaday Supercon that I wish I had signed up for, and I might just try to like loiter in the background and just kind of get the high points. That's like my biggest regret for Supercon is not signing up for a Thread/Matter class that they were doing. But yeah, these chips like should allow you to make IoT devices that are not dependent on a Wi-Fi network, or sometimes will have like their own meshed communication going on between them. And I think that's really interesting and cool. So keep your eye on these microcontrollers, and also thank you for the high quality explanation of the difference between these protocols. Again, like Thread is the successor, it seems like, to Zigbee. Like the association that was behind Zigbee has now reformatted itself to be behind like pushing like Thread instead. So it seems like a more developed and kind of like applied version of what Zigbee was from the same people behind Zigbee. So not a lot of risk there. Sesame Street for hackers, love it. Okay, so I would be insulted if it was my normal stream, but this was me talking about visualizing like all the different types of packets and stuff for this SAO that I'm continuing to work on. I'll pause this for a second. I got my package today from Adafruit that has the last of the parts that I need to do my SAO. So I'm under a lot of pressure now. I don't think it's going to be done in time for Supercon, and that's fine. Like it doesn't need to be. The point is that I want to finish the PCB. I want to like make some footprints for components from scratch. Like I want to do some of the things that hardware engineers have to do. So I'm really excited to get these last parts, and they came in really fast. Adafruit does a great job. I also really like that this package says it's like directly from the founder of Adafruit. It's got her name on it. So that's exciting. I know that it's like not, but like, still the fact that Lamore maybe packed this is exciting. So yeah, let's see. Let me check back. Oh, all right. Most of my tech stuff is based on dirt cheap stuff. Yes. So let me tell you about this thing that I made that I'm very proud of. So we've been talking about Meshtastic, and I am making a proposal to talk about Meshtastic at the C3 conference, and I wanted to say that I had made a Meshtastic node for less than $5, or for around $5. I basically want to say a $5 Meshtastic node. Now, in order to run Meshtastic, you need like the radio, which is like $350 is the best price I can get on it. And that means like at $350, we got to work some magic if we want to be able to make a $5 node. Like, it's just like not going to be easy, right? So where is it? I was able to create this horrible looking thing that does work. Oh, here it is. Okay, good. This horrible looking thing that is a Raspberry Pi 2040 microcontroller combined with this little LoRa radio, the RFM 95. So, oh my God. As you can see, I've air wired this elegantly, I might add, and stuck a little like curly Q 915 megahertz antenna on this. So what is the price? I bought this RP2040 on AliExpress for $1, I think it was $1.60, something like that. So $1.60, $350. And then we could use a wire, so I'm not even really counting this antenna. That puts us at about $5.40 for this Raspberry Pi 2040 based Meshtastic node. Does it work? Yes, it does. I ran this and I named it Pi driver. Hopefully some people will get that. And I was able to get this up and working over serial, admittedly, because this version of the RP2040 doesn't have the companion Wi-Fi chip that would make it like the cheap version of the Raspberry Pi Pico W. This is instead the cheap version of the Pi Pico. So this is officially supported by Meshtastic, like the RP2040, but most people assume you're going to be normal and you're going to be using a Raspberry Pi Pico. Now, weirdly, the Raspberry Pi Pico would blow my budget of $5 out of the water. So in order to make a super, super cheap version of this, I had to go with the Waveshare RP2040 Zero board instead. Now, I've got some frustrations with this. I've actually talked about this board on the stream before, and I was complaining that this is a board that has castellated edges. So that means it's got like kind of like cutouts in the edges that make it so you can solder it flat. However, it's also not flat because it puts the RP2040 chip on the side you're supposed to solder to the PCB. So that means it can't be automatically done by China. Like, it needs instead to come over here and have me solder it if I want to do it that way. Or I could additionally just change it into a through hole kind of PCB instead if I wanted to slap this on a circuit board. So naturally, anybody who's seen this kind of beautiful air wiring realizes that a circuit board would be the way to make this look less crazy and be more dependable. And I think it actually might be pretty cool and worth paying the couple cents for a circuit board to make a version of this project that is able to be slapped together for like maybe $6, I guess, all told, that demonstrates the economic potential of creating mesh networks. So I think this was one of my favorite projects I've done in a little bit, and I wanted to give a shout out to this incredible GitHub project. So this beautiful human being was the one who decided that they wanted to get Meshtastic compiled for this even cheaper version of the RP2040 chip. So, RP2040 breakout board. So they decided they wanted to take the cheap and available radio, the exact same one that I'm using, bless them, and then the cheap and available RP2040 module, bless them again, and put them together. Now, their version actually has a screen as well. So mine not only doesn't have Wi-Fi, it doesn't have a screen. And I just wanted to shout out, this is so incredibly cool. Their version, like I said, does have a little monitor. You can see messages, which is really cool. So I chose not to include that because it would put me over the budget that I was looking for. But oh my God, it was so cool to see this already compiled and working. So I will say that also they compiled a version that you can just drag and drop, which is fantastic and just great showmanship when it comes to like a open source GitHub project that's just been dropped here for people to follow. The fact that anybody can follow along by dragging and dropping this, or they can also compile their own version, is really great. Now, the reason you would want to compile your own version is this is actually, this was done 9 months ago. So Meshtastic has changed so much now that the firmware here is no longer compatible with the app. So you can use it via like the web application from like a laptop, but if you try to use it with your phone plugged in over serial, it will complain to you and say that it's no longer able to communicate with it properly. So does it work? Yes. Is it ideal? No. And does some work remain on this project to make it so it's using the most recent version of Meshtastic? Yes, you would need to open Platform IO and recompile it because it's been about 9 months since the author came back to this project. But I wanted to shout this out as like the tool of the week. If you've been looking for a maybe like a 30-minute project of doing some air wiring or perf boarding, you have roughly $5 and an interest in Meshtastic, then this project I think was super cool and I enjoyed doing it a lot. All right, so that is just about all the time we have for today. I am really excited about Supercon. We're going to talk about all the cool stuff that I see there. Hopefully going to go live from the conference. And every time I come back, I always have a lot of cool new materials or cool new thing I've seen there. And this is going to be a lot of SAOs, simple add-ons. We'll see what people have created, but I've seen all kinds of wild stuff like already in the run-up to the conference. So I want to thank everybody who's been on the stream with us today. I know we started a little bit late, but you know, that's them's the breaks sometimes when I am the cameraman and also the announcer, the anchor. So thanks for hanging out with us a little bit later than usual, but I find that honestly, people kind of trickle in on the stream and we get even more activity sometimes when we go live a little later than average. So if you want to support the stream, if you like this Q&A and the news stream we do on Friday, you can always go to varonis.com/Kody. Lets everyone at Varonis know you appreciate the stream and you want them to continue to sponsor us twice a week, every week. So big shout out to them for continuing to let me do that and also to go to this exciting, awesome conference. Really, really stoked about it. And again, hopefully I'll see some of you there and maybe I'll give out some of my QR codes, SecurityFWD stickers, Hacking with Friends stickers, and some of the other cool stuff I've got going on. So, all right, everyone, I will see all of you on Friday. Thanks for hanging out with us on Hacking with Friends. And yeah, we'll see you later. Goodbye.